Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Bangers. If you've clicked on this, you know we're going to be talking about blood orange recipes tonight. And without further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and jump right into it, right? So let me just open up the first recipe that I want to talk about. And I think a lot of people have talked about this recipe. However, I don't think people talk about it enough. The first recipe I want to talk about is Das Cole Fantastic, a Fantasia remix. Okay, now this was really one of the first recipes that I found on all the flavors that 100% blew my mind. It was just so right, and also it was the right juice for me at the right time. I was vaping a lot of Malaysian stuff, and this, of course, I believe Fantasia is a Malaysian juice manufacturer, and this was, of course, modeled after one of their liquids, right? Let's go into it and what all the flavors are for here. So Dazzle goes in with 4% Flavor West Blood Orange, 0.3% Inuera Cactus to add a little bit of juiciness, wetness to the mix, 0.75% TFA Dragon Fruit. This is the emulsifier. It binds the wetness and the blood orange and the marshmallow and the tangerine all together, right? TFA marshmallow to knock off some of the harsher tones off of the oranges, and some sweet tangerine to just help sell that orange soda profile, and FA Tanger mandarin layered in there just to help bring another element or dimension to that orange that he is creating over here. Now, a lot of people have rated this recipe a 4 out of 5. I don't think I have actually put a review down here. So I'll just go ahead and do that right now. This for me is a 5-star recipe. So I believe there is a flavor pack for this recipe at Chef. So yeah, head on down there if you're interested in a blood orange kind of soda. This to me is a little bit more on the realistic side. When I say realistic, I mean realistic fruit juice. So not so candy, not like a Fanta orange. San Pellegrino is like a 23 or 16% fresh orange juice sparkling soda, and this is really what this reminds me of. I love this. It's fantastic. This FA Tanger, at 1% in this mix makes all the difference. It just, where Flavor West Blood Orange is already a full vape, the sweet tangerine in there, just really helps it out with a little bit of sweetness, of course, and layering that orange, and then the tanger kind of like comes at the end of the vape, and it just really sells that sort of like a Fanta orange with a little bit of realistic orange juice in its profile. Yeah, 5-star rating from me on ATF, and this 100% gets a banger.
Right, for the first of my two blood orange recipes, I chose Harambee by Slashalo. I did try another Harambee recipe, which was RIP Harambee by Crucial, which I really enjoyed, so the name Harambee certainly caught my attention. I mean, I don't have any specific fondness for the gorilla of the same name, but juices named Harambee have been good in my opinion, so I was looking forward to this. It's basically the old Orange Julius ploy of banana and orange together. Let's go through the recipe and you'll see that it's a fairly simple concept. For the orange, he took 1.5% FW blood orange, which I wanted because I wanted to go old school and look at the sort of granddaddy of the blood oranges, which is FW. For the banana, he went 1% TFA banana cream with 0.5% Flavora banana, which gives you a nice, somewhat more authentic banana. It's not as runty as, say, LA banana cream. Then to tie the orange and the banana elements together, he used 1% of Flavora cream and 0.75% of Flavor West hazelnut, and then just a little bit of sweetening with 0.25% of Cap super sweet. Now in the notes he talks about the fact that banana and orange don't mesh together very well, and that's been my experience as well. I thought Liquid Barn did a really good job of pairing them up in their orange banana, their single flavor, but certainly in mixing it's two quite difficult flavors to balance, and I think that's largely because they are quite different. You know, blood orange is all about that very prominent in your face top note, that deep rich citrusy orange note, whereas banana, particularly the more authentic ones, the less sort of candy like LA banana cream type bananas, the more authentic ones, which is what you get with Flavora banana and TFA banana cream, tend to be a little bit more subtle. It's more about the texture than just about the flavor, and they also, as opposed to being very strong on the start of the exhale, they kind of build over the duration of the exhale, and you get a lot of that banana flavor at the tail end of the exhale, and also as kind of coating of your mouth after you finish the exhale. So again, difficult to find a vape where the two of them register equally. But I think Stashlow did a pretty good job of that in this recipe. It is as I expected it would be. At the start of the exhale, you get that very strong blood orange coming through. As the exhale continues, the orange gives away more to that sort of creamy banana, somewhat more subtle, somewhat more textured flavor, which comes through the longer the vape goes on. Texturally, I really like this. It's not a juice, it's not a cream, it's quite moist. It's more moist than I thought it would be. It doesn't go into straight on like orange juice, but it is pretty juicy, particularly for something with Flavora cream and hazelnuts in it, which would tend towards more sort of creamy, rich, creamy type of feel. This has definite wetness to it. It's got a lot of juiciness to it. The flavors are balanced quite well, again, as I say, within that context of the orange dominating up front and the banana taking over later. Probably my only mild criticism of the recipe is that there's just a little bit too much of that citrusy throatiness in. Now, I'm not sure whether that's coming from the FW blood orange, or maybe even the Flavora banana might be contributing to that, because I have had that with Flavora banana where it does catch your throat a little bit, but it might just be the chemistry of the two, or it might be one of the other. 1.5% Flavor West blood orange is quite low, so it's not that it's becoming chemical, but overall that lovely textured juicy vape, sweetness is spot on, but I'm just getting a little bit too much of that citrusy throatiness for my liking. I'm not sure that reducing the blood oranges is going to help that too much. It's low already, and it registers correctly in the mix, so it might also be a steeping issue. I steeped this for 5 days. That should be enough for primarily a fruit mix, but maybe over the course of another week or so, that slightly harsh note will probably recede a bit. So overall, I think this is a tasty mix, very juicy mix if that's what you're looking for. Sweetness is on point, bang on there. Very nice texture to it, quite a nice thick texture to it, but with that mouth-watering juiciness to it. So generally works very, very well. Just that one slight off note that doesn't quite work well for me, but I'll see how it develops after a longer steep. But generally, for what it is, for blending banana and orange together and making it work as a unit, this one gets the first bump from me.
Hey guys, the second recipe I wanted to, spotlight tonight and talk about is one of our own TFV team members' recipe, Rudy. This recipe is called Sidecar, right? Now, what is Sidecar? Sidecar is based on an early 1900s classic cocktail. Um, the original recipe calls for equal portions of lemon juice, Cointreau, which is orange flavored liqueur, and cognac. Modern interpretation include a version with bourbon instead of rum, with a dash of bitters called the bourbon sidecar. This version is based on the latter, with the exclusion of bourbon. Okay, so why I wanted to mix up this recipe specifically is, of course, it doesn't have a rating, so I'm going to put down a rating for Rudy on this recipe. But I also wanted to see how blood orange plays with other flavors. I mean, I have used it now in this week. I did a showdown on all the blood oranges, head to head. So head on down to that video if you're interested to see how to use these blood oranges and what the different applications for them are. But in that, what I found from FLV Blood Orange is just that it's out of Flavor Art, Flavor West, and Flavora. Excuse me, out of Flavor Art, Flavor West, and Flavora. Out of those three, Flavora is definitely the juicier one. And in that video, I said I think it would be the better option to go for if you are creating a cocktail or some kind of beverage. And that's what Rudy did over here. So it's nice to have that kind of gratification, or that what you're tasting is also what Rudy is tasting, right? FLV back bar bitters is a revelation. I can see many recipes spawning from this unique flavor. This is a fantastical deep bouquet of floral spices which will add a magical touch to any mix. With hints of cinnamon, orange peel, ginger cloves in it, it creates a complex and balanced aromatic spicy additive. Yes, it's got that. It's got the spiciness works really well with oranges, especially like a light cinnamon or ginger. And it's also got that orange peel in there that just makes the whole mix hang together, more authentically or more easily, right? And then Rudy went in with 1% FLV lemon as the lemon juice. I shook it up, I vaped it, and I was happy with it straight off the bat. Rudy doesn't like his, coolants too much, or he doesn't like the sweetness too much, but I wouldn't say add coolant to this, but maybe a little bit of a sweetener. But as all the modern recipes go nowadays, you sweeten to taste, so for me this is definitely, I think I want to create some kind of badge which is between a full banger and the tip. So I'm not 100% sure what I should call that. So maybe out in chat, if we should create a badge that's between the tip of the banger and a full banger, please let me know. And this is what this recipe is. So 4.5 stars out of 5. Thanks, Rudy, for this. I'm going to put down a review for you. Thanks, guys.
Good afternoon. For this episode of Bangers, I've mixed up 3 recipes, all featuring blood orange in one form or another. For the first recipe, I'd like to talk about Pebbles by Not Charles Manson. This consists of Flavor West Blood Orange at 1.5%, Flavor Art Black Cherry Amarena Cherry at 0.75%, Loran's Cream Cheese Icing at 1%, TFA Graham Cracker Clear at 3%, Flavor West Hazelnut at 0.5%, Capella Lemon Lime at 2%, Flavor Art Meringue 2%, Capella Sugar Cookie at 4%, TFA Toasted Marshmallow at 1%, and Flavor Art Vienna Cream at 1.25%. Not Charles Manson actually states that this is a shake and vape, but the creams actually come out a little bit more with time. His full notes are actually on DIY e-juice on Reddit. and this recipe was taken off ELR. I believe it's also on ATF as well. For me, on Shake and Vape, this is quite close to the Fruity Pebbles cereal, which is the profile he was going for. The fruits are actually mixed together quite nicely, with the lime being the dominant flavour. This is followed by a very slight lemon and an orange flavour. Now, something that surprised me, I was expecting the black cherry to actually stand out like a sore thumb, but I couldn't actually taste it in the mix at all off Shake and Vape, which really surprised me. So it's either gone in there a little bit low, but at 0.75% I don't think it's that low, or it's actually really well blended in with the other flavours. To me, there's a very slight light honey-like taste, which I believe is actually coming off the TFA graham cracker that's in the background, and it gives the mix a nice little bit of sweetness, a nice little bit of natural sweetness to it. This also has quite a nicely textured cereal grain taste to it, which I believe is the combination of Flavor West hazelnut, the graham cracker, and of course the sugar cookie. It's a little acetylpyrazine like, which again I believe is probably the graham cracker, but it is actually quite a convincing, nice mouthfeel and quite a pleasant taste as well, for a decent approximation to a cereal grain. I'm not really, for me, off Shake and Vape, the graham cracker is pretty much the dominant taste, but I suppose that's what you want with a cereal. When you're actually eating it out of the bowl, you would get that grainy taste, mouthfeel first, followed by the flavouring of that cereal, which in this case is the fruits, the very slight honey, and a very minimal amount of cream. So even though he states there is Shake and Vape, I believe this is actually going to be better if you leave it sit for at least a couple of days, just to let those creams come through. When the cream does come through, it's quite a nice, sweet, light, almost milky cream, because of the combination of the Vienna cream, the cream cheese icing, of course, adding some sweetness to that, and a little depth, and also the FA meringue, giving it its silky smooth, sweet taste and texture, adding itself to those creams, which does actually give quite a pleasant light milk creamy taste. So what I'd say is, if you're going to mix this up, by all means shake and vape it, but I'd recommend to leave it sit for a couple of days to a week, just to allow those creams to really come into their own and shine through, and for everything to really blend together. Now, what I'd say is I'd recommend this for anybody that loves their cereal vapes. If you like your cereal vapes, you're going to really like this recipe. Now, considering it's an older recipe made in 2016, the flavouring tested on the modern equipment of Recurve at quite a low wattage, 0.25 ohm watts. It's the flavouring, it's not over flavoured at all, which is what some of those older recipes on some newer devices can come across as slightly over flavoured, chemically perfumey. But this holds true to the profile that I believe not Charles Manson was actually going for. So I'd actually, as I said, I'd recommend this to anybody that likes their cereal vapes. I'd give this a tip of the banger. Now for my next recipe, again taken from ELR, it's Phoenix Juice by Phoenix. The recipe is Flavor West Blood Orange at 4%, TFA Dragon Fruit at 2%, Capella Golden Pineapple at 3%, and TFA Strawberry Ripe at 2%. Now, there's no actual notes on their recipe, and they don't mention a steep time, so I took this as a shake and vape. So all of my notes are based on a shake and vape for this flavour. Straight off the bat, it's quite a tropical juice, like a semi-tropical juice. Like the orange is fairly dominant. I then get the sweet pineapple juice. The dragon fruit doesn't so much as lend a flavour to this. It's more of that tartness from the dragon fruit, with a very, very faint tropical feel. The strawberry at 2%, as you probably expect, doesn't really come through on this mix very well. It's present, but only as a very, very faint hint. Now, if I didn't know what this recipe consisted of, I probably wouldn't have guessed that there was strawberry in this at all. This is a nice, sweet and tart, semi-tropical juice. Phoenix has actually done a pretty decent job of creating a nice, simple recipe that comes across on the palate as a little complex, but for me did actually need some tweaks. But again, for my palate, those of you that enjoy your fruit vapes might really like this. And if you have mixed this up, or you do mix this up after seeing the video, please leave your thoughts in the comments on the YouTube video. For me, because of how it actually came across for me, I'd be quite happy with giving this a fist bump. So well done, Phoenix. Now my final recipe is it's got quite a long title. It's Getting All Fancy with Fresh 03. It's an elderflower pear martini by MechMod RN. The recipe is as follows: Blood Orange Champagne by Vape Train Australia at 3%, Flavora Elderflower at 0.5%, Capella Fuji Apple at 2.5%, TFA Honeysuckle at 1.5%, Flavour Art Pear at 1.5%, and Vape Train Australia Russian Vodka at 3.5%. Now, Mary Beth, MechMod RN on ELR and ATF actually recommends a 3-day steep for this recipe. So I mixed it up and gave her a little vape after the 3 days. What she actually says in her notes is this recipe was created for Fresh and Friends Saturday show. So I believe she actually made this live on the show for Fresh 03's show. Now, when you shake and vape this, that elderflower comes across really strong, but if you leave it sit for the 3 days, which is what MechMod RN is actually advised, that elderflower does die down a bit and allows some of the other flavours to actually come through. Now, for my palate, that elderflower is still a little bit too strong and could do with being dropped down very slightly to 0.3-0.4%, but again, that is just for my palate. I can still taste some of the other flavours coming through, but the elderflower is still a little bit too dominant for me. What I get, I'm getting a nice blood orange top note with some of the pear in the apple actually bleeding through into the mix. The pear gives a little bit of sweetness and juiciness to the apple. Of course, the Capella Fuji red apple is a decent sweet red apple. Again, slightly juicy. The pear just adds to this and creates a quite a nice pear and apple pairing. The honeysuckle, with it being 1.5%, doesn't so much add its own flavour to this mix, but does provide some of its sweetness. It actually makes its sweetness present in this mix. The sweetness is very slightly syrupy. It's actually quite an interesting usage of the honeysuckle in this. Now, for that Vape Train Australia Russian vodka, When I tested it out on its own, I actually got a Zubrovka, the bison grass vodka, kind of the vibe from it. 3.5% isn't overly strong for this flavour in a mix. So it's actually quite a good usage. In this cocktail, you do actually get a very, very slight light alcohol type bottom note, which does turn this from a fruit mix into that cocktail mix. There isn't actually any alcohol harshness or throat hit to it, but you do know it's in there. I'm not sure whether this, for my palate, actually needs a little bit more time for that elderflower to die down a little bit more to allow all the other flavours to shine through, or whether it just needs a very, very minor set of tweaks. But if you enjoy your cocktail vapes, or indeed your fruit vapes, or your floral vapes, I'd recommend you give this a mix up and give it a try. You might be pleasantly surprised. Now, for me, this mix is actually teetering right on the edge of a tip of the banger. It's not quite there, but if we had a score to give that was between a fist bump and a tip of the banger, that's what I'd be giving it. But as it stands, I'm gonna have to do fist bump to Mary Beth Mechmod RN. It's very, very nice mix, especially one that was created on the spot for a live mixing show. Right, thanks. Over to
For my second blood orange recipe, I chose Morning Sunrise Yogurt Mousse by Mary Beth, also known as Mechmod RN on all the flavors and on various podcasts. I was very happy to be able to mix this. I've been wanting to mix Mary Beth's recipes for a while, but unfortunately our first rule, very, very often she uses a huge range of flavors, not all of which are easily available here. So I was glad to find a recipe that I could actually mix up. So this is it's an orangey, as she says, a yogurt mousse. It's supposed to be a sort of light but creamy and smooth orange yogurt type of thing. Let's have a look at the recipe and we'll see the layers she puts in there. The orange top note is carried by 1.2% Flavor Art Blood Orange and 2% Cap Sweet Tangerine. Then for the yogurt mousse base that it sits on, she builds that up with 4% Cap Creamy Yogurt, 1.5% FA Meringue, 0.75% Flavora Vanilla Pudding, 2% Cap Vanilla Whipped Cream, and then just sweetens the whole thing up with 0.5% of Flavora Sweetness. Right off the bat, what struck me about this was the beautiful texture of it. She talks about a mousse texture, and that's spot on for me. It's dense, it's velvety. When I say dense, I don't mean it's heavy. It's still quite light, but it's very velvety, very smooth, excellent mouthfeel, and it really does feel like a richly textured yogurt mousse. The blood orange and cap sweet tangerine works nicely for me. That's quite it's not as sharp a blood orange as you will often find. It does tend to mellow out a little bit, I think also because of that sort of velvety base underneath it. It doesn't have that harsh citrusy note. So yeah, that blood orange and sweet tangerine work very nicely together. Sweetness level, I think those who like commercial juices might want to maybe up the sweetness a little bit. For me it was fine. I'm not a huge fan of sweetener, although I did use the 0.5% Flavora sweetness in this, and for my palate it was perfect. But if you're the type of person that likes your juices really sweet, you might want to increase that a little bit. In terms of the balance in the juice, I've already spoken about the texture, which is absolutely fantastic. The balance for me, just for my palate, this is not a criticism of the recipe, it's just palate specific, and it'll be how you interpret the juice. I found the Cap Creamy yogurt note to be a little bit too high for me. It's not that very tart Greek yogurt note that you get because it's Cap Creamy yogurt. It's a little bit sweeter, a little bit pulled back from that really acidic tartness of Greek yogurt. But nevertheless, this is a very prominent yogurt note. There's no doubt about this. You vaping the yogurt. So much so, in fact, that the yogurt note kind of is for me the main note of the recipe. It's kind of even above the orange and tangerine top note for me. So just for my palate, I would probably want that orange and tangerine note a little bit higher, and maybe that Cap Creamy yogurt note pulled back a little bit. But again, that's just palate specific. Your mileage may vary, and if you like something that tastes like a yogurt, but you don't want to go the whole 9 yards with that absolutely potent and acidic or tart Greek yogurt note, then creamy yogurt works very well. It does absolutely give that impression of vaping the yogurt, but without all that astringency to it. Texturally, absolutely wonderful. The vanilla pudding, the vanilla whipped cream, the meringue, the creamy yogurt, all working together to give you that sort of rich, velvety mousse. That is a lovely base, and very well done on that, Mary Beth. I like that orangey, citrusy top note. It's not overpowering. It's just the right level of sort of sweetness and tang. For me, as I say, I would probably maybe dial that creamy yogurt back slightly and dial the orange up. Maybe the orange doesn't even need to be dialed up, once that creamy yogurt comes back. So overall, terrific stuff. Lovely texture to it. Absolutely spot on level of sweetness. The moistness level is also right. It's not juicy. It's got that sort of solid moisture that a yogurt mousse will tend to have. So it's not dry, but it's also not juicy, which is perfect for me. That's exactly what the profile sets out to achieve, and it does that superbly. So overall, very good mix. I'll be mixing this up again, as I say, maybe tweaking a little bit to my palate, but definitely a winning combo this that is really appealing to me. So again, fist pump to Mary Beth. Thank you.
Okay, guys, we've come to the end of the Banger Show. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for the people that are joining us week after week, for the show. It's really awesome to have you here. Just a couple of things before we go, guys. Please head on down to Facebook, Mixologist South Africa group. That's where all the South Africans really post their recipes and stuff, and where you can find us. Also, in the description of this video, you will find all the profiles for all the TFV members if you want to go and check that out. I've also put down links there for some one-shot lines that the team has if you're interested to support the team. Right, guys, a couple of channels that I wanted to shout out is Daytime Frank. Go and check out his YouTube channel. Also go to his newly created Facebook group, and please post your recipes in there. Fresh03 for letting us run this after the show. Thank you so much. DIY Down Under. Then I've also, for all the new mixers that watch this video, go and check out the DIY primer link in the description of this video below. That's a document that Richard created, and it gives you a whole rundown of how to kick off, your mixing and what mistakes not to make. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining us week after week, and go and enjoy your day. Bye.